Hello, and thank you for attending today's web seminar on high-quality biosolids and the power of social media. My name is Christine Radke. I'm one of the program directors for the Water, Environment, and Reuse Foundation, and I will be moderating today's event. Before we get started, let's review a few housekeeping items that will help you participate in today's event. So on the screen, you can see there's a screenshot of what you should be seeing in your interface. This should be on the upper right corner of your computer desktop. I believe most of you have joined today's presentation listening through your computer speaker system by default, but if you prefer to listen through your telephone, you can locate the audio section, click on Use Telephone, and then the dial-in information and access code will then pop up for you to use a phone. Throughout the web seminar, you can send in questions to our presenters by using the questions pane and clicking send. I will be holding on to questions until the very end of the presentation just to let you know. Without further ado, I'd like to go ahead and get started with the seminar, but first let me introduce our speakers. Today we have Trudy Johnston and Bill Toffey. Trudy Johnston is president of Material Matters, a consulting firm concentrating on processing and managing municipal biosolids and industrial residuals, also including biosolids odors, biosolids product marketing, and industrial pretreatment. She has over 34 years of work experience in wastewater, with 30 years as a consultant. She is a certified wastewater treatment operator in Pennsylvania and is the president of the Mid-Atlantic Biosolids Association. Trudy has a Bachelor of Science in Earth Science from Penn State University. The company Material Matters is a nationally recognized consulting firm that has participated in numerous biosolids master studies and product marketing assessments. Trudy is also the principal investigator for WENRF's research project to define high-quality biosolids, of which this web seminar is based. She will be our first speaker and will give an overview of the project. Before I hand it off to Trudy, let me introduce also Bill Toffey. Bill Toffey has 35 years experience in municipal wastewater, environmental, and energy management. He is a principal of Effluential Synergies LLC, which is a sustainable residuals consultant, and serves as the executive director of the Mid-Atlantic Biosolids Association. MABA, as it's known, is a trade group that covers 7 states and supports an industry with 700 biosolids generators and 1,500 professionals. Bill directed the development of innovative recycling programs for wastewater solids for the city of Philadelphia and has participated in numerous conferences, research projects, and training programs to bring best-in-class practices to the wastewater profession. He has been an industry leader in bringing sustainability principles to the water profession and has recently worked on thermal processing, co-digestion, and nutrient extraction projects for public and private clients. Bill graduated with distinction from the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences at Cornell University and has a Master's of Regional Planning degree from the University of Pennsylvania. Bill is also a member of the WERF High Quality Biosolids Research Project and is leading the task on gauging the effects of social media when it comes to promoting the use of high quality biosolids, which he will be speaking about after Trudy speaks. So with that, I'll just hand it over to Trudy to give an overview of our research project. Trudy? And Trudy, remember to unmute yourself.
Thanks, Christine, for that reminder. And welcome, everybody. Glad you could join in. We're going to talk today about the most recent research project, WENRF. Takes a little while to get used to saying that. This is the High Quality Biosolids from Wastewater project. As Christine mentioned, I am the principal investigator. Chris Piot from DC Water is also working with our team. We have a great group of research partners at Penn State, Virginia Tech, Kansas State, University of Maryland, and US EPA has also joined in the research, and DC Metro Council of Governments. Also have a great group of participating utilities from across the U.S., also in Canada and Australia. These folks represent a large variation of treatment technologies, which we'll talk about a little bit on a later slide. great project advisors, Jim Smith, formerly with EPA, Yan-Chi Chen with Penn State University, who is often seen working on other WE and RF projects, and Ralph Eschborn from AECOM. Wanted to start by laying some groundwork about WE and RF and their incredible support for biosolids. They have a very strong history of providing significant funding for biosolids research. And if folks on the phone are interested, you can go to their website, and if you look at the biosolids knowledge area, you'll see the large variety of research that they've done over the past decades. So the vision for the current research project really came from WE and RF and the whole concept of resource recovery and the focus on building biosolids for the future. We've passed 503. We have a lot of folks now thinking about biosolids and biosolids quality, but how can we think about the future? How can we build on that? How can we think about biosolids as a commodity? How can we market it and use it locally? Another part of the vision had to do with creating products that customers actually want. And how can we manage to create these types of products and provide the guidance to do that? The other question was, how do we define and develop standards for high-quality biosolids? What are high-quality biosolids? Is there testing that we can do to say this is high quality and this may not be high quality? And how do we manufacture these products? How do we process them? How do we use them locally? That was the vision that was established in the RFP. So what will this webinar cover? We're going to cover a couple slides that talk about high quality biosolids, what that means, looking at the research goals and objectives of WE and RF and our research team. We're then going to look at each one of the tasks involved in our particular research, 1 through 4. Bill Toffey is actually charged with task 4, which is social media. So once we review the research project, we'll turn the webinar over to Bill. And then at the very end, we'll have questions. How do we define high-quality biosolids? What is the vision for the future? We know that we can build on decades of information on beneficial use. It's a very well-accepted practice. It's been taking place for years with a variety of different products, a variety of different locations. And what are those standards and specifications that we can use to make a better biosolids? What is a better biosolids? Our team initially defined this better product as, well, there has to be low or no odors. We know it has to be stable, and it should be marketable. It should be a product that's demanded by others. So when we look back to our WE and RF primary goal that they set in the RFP, it was really to significantly expand biosolids use nationwide. And how do we define those standards and specs that we needed to successfully produce and market a high quality product? And we want to do that across the country, but we also have to think about what are the benefits to the producer and what are the benefits for the customer. Regulatory standards may not be enough. And if folks on the phone are as old as me, they probably remember the little buttons that we wore in 1993 that said 503 is enough for me. That was when we established the minimum regulatory standards. So we had been using biosolids on land for decades before that, but now we had a regulatory standard to look at. And utilities were very comfortable nowadays in meeting and understanding those minimum regulatory standards. But we really don't have any standards that says, here's what high quality biosolids mean. We know that utilities are shifting to Class AEQ products, but are they still high quality? And I'll give an example. The U.S. Composting Council has developed a program where they award the seal of testing assurance to compost products that meet their standard. And this might be an example of defining what high-quality biosolids are. So what does high-quality biosolids mean to you? I suspect most folks on the phone are either a municipal operator or generator or manager or design engineer. But if we went to a community member and said, what does high-quality biosolids mean to you? They may say, well, low odor, and it's far enough from my well that I feel comfortable. What might a customer say? A customer may say, well, I need a low odor profile, I need a certain sizing, I need a certain color. They have very specific requirements for what they're looking for. An operator may say, I need a product that's good enough that meets the regulatory requirements that it goes out the door every day. Municipal manager may say, I need a low-cost program. A regulator may say, I don't want any complaints. Don't call me. As long as your product meets the requirements and I don't get complaints, I'm happy. And what might a design engineer say? Well, I'm designing a project that meets your criteria, but frequently we don't think about what that product will be that comes out of the technology that's designed. So thinking about high quality, we have to think about what does high quality mean to all of these entities. We do know that customers demand high quality biosolids. When we sell a product, the customer tells us that they're interested in a certain type of material. So what is this measurable criteria? Do we have measurable criteria that defines high-quality biosolids? Well, we know the regulatory component. We all understand pollutant, pathogen reduction, and process VAR. We know that that's our starting point. But beyond that, we understand it has to be stable, no low odors, absolutely needs to meet without question PR and VAR. And we also know that there has to be minimum putrefaction, try to say that 10 times in a row, which means it's stable, which means that it doesn't change over time, which means that we can store it. We have to be able to store it. Need to meet customer requirements. Has to have a good appearance, but one of the new ideas that we've introduced with this research is that it has to be acceptable in high public access areas, and we'll talk a little bit about more about that in some of the other slides. Our team's approach to the high-quality biosolids research and setting goals was we thought about, okay, we need to make sure that we have a stable product. What does that mean? It means it's low odor. It means it doesn't degrade over time. Also means it's not attractive to vectors. How can we get at this definition? We also thought about it in terms of, all right, now we need to make a product, and we need to take that product and use it in an urban or suburban area. So that's the high public access areas that we're talking about. We're talking about using products in city landscapes, city gardens, perhaps in municipal gardens, turf fields, athletic fields. That's what we mean by use in high public access areas. But that's great. It's great to define high quality biosolids. It's great to make products and demonstrate their use. But the missing piece has been this whole concept and idea of marketing, and that we've added to our research. So our goal is to define what this criteria that we need for high-quality biosolids, create products that meet the customer specs, demonstrate that they work, and then create guidance for marketing the products. So I'm going to go through all three of these approaches. This was sort of our task 1, 2, and 3 team approach, and we're going to cover that now. We needed to think about what samples did we want to use for our research. Well, we knew that we wanted to focus on Class A EQ. And we thought about the different technologies and how we would define these technologies. There are some older technologies we've used for some time that have been proven, and there are some newer technologies that are just now being used for the first time. We thought about this as technologies that are commonly used and technologies that give us a variety of different types of products so that we can compare and contrast. We do have anaerobic digestion, both centrifuge and belt filter press dewatering. We have thermal hydrolysis, aerobic digestion, ATAD, some dual digestion samples. We have thermal drying, but we have that with and without digestion. We have an alkaline stabilized product, and we also have chemical stabilization. We decided not to include compost products because we felt that the U.S. Composting Council Seal of Testing Assurance program was sufficient. Task 1, this is where we looked at stability. So we set our research approach to look at the criteria that would render a biosolids as high quality and evaluate some of these biosolids that are currently being produced and assess those characteristics and see if that would qualify them or disqualify them as high quality. So again, our focus was on stability and odor, again using Class AEQ biosolids and a diverse number of samples from across the US, Canada, and Australia. If you look on the upper right-hand side of the slide, you'll see a device where we put biosolids in the jars, containers, and we sweep air across those samples and we collect an air sample. Those air samples then are taken to the odor lab where the dynamic olfactometer is used, where we can use human odor assessment to give a dilution to threshold result for those odors. This is an objective odor assessment, and that's part of the Task 1 focus. We also are looking at attractiveness to houseflies, and we've engaged folks at University of Kansas for some very interesting and exciting research. We're just now starting to get some of the results back from our housefly experiment. And we're also going to do some specialized analytical tests. We're going to take all of the data and see if we can't connect the human odor assessment to flies and also some of these other surrogate tests that we might want to do in the future to see if we can't define high-quality biosolids and use some of these laboratory tests to get us to that point. You'll see on the left-hand side of the slide that there are some routine operating tests that are commonly done, and we're doing those. An additional test that was stuck in there is methionine, and that was based on research done by Matt Higgins on methionine in connection to odor. We're also, of course, looking at PR and VAR, but one of the components we think might be an important surrogate is volatile solids. Some of the other promising surrogates that are not commonly done are, of course, our human odor assessment, but there's another respiratory technology called oxytop that's used quite frequently in Europe. There's two analyticals that EPA is doing for us that EPA believes has a lot of promise, and that's the FAME analysis and FTIR. And of course, as I mentioned, we're looking at the attractiveness to flies. All of this data will be used in our statistical analysis to see if we can find a correlation. We do have some interesting findings from Task 1, even though we're only about halfway through. Our phase 1 is completed, and one of the things we identified was that the samples that we selected really revealed a wide range of mean odor concentrations. In other words, we have some low odor products, some moderately odor products, and some high odor products. And the split that you'll see on the slide was a little surprising. Again, these are all Class AEQ. We did have one Class B mixed in, but we only represented low odor by 8%, and we seem to be able to group some of these together. Medium odor were about 45%, but this is high. These are Class AEQ products. 47% of those we would judge as high odor products. We did also note, and I didn't mention this yet, but we did include blended products. So, for example, Tacoma was one of the participating utilities. They provided cake and they also provided one of their blended products. We also had DC Water's Bloom, where we are looking at the straight bloom cake and also looking at the air-dried cake, and we're also looking at some Bloom blended products. Let's jump into Task 2 research approach, and this is really to get at making products and demonstrating products and making sure that we are building a product that works well in an urban and suburban application. So the focus really was on two components in Task 2, and that was really making products and then using them in urban areas. So what we wanted to do is look at some of these newly developed DQ products, make recipes, develop new products, and take a look at those in terms of greenhouse experiments and looking at identifying critical characteristics so that as we develop more products, we have a good handle on what that recipe might look like. The second part of our Task 2 research really comes back to the demonstration component, because if our customers don't know and understand how to use the product or whether the product actually helps them, then we've not necessarily done our job. So demonstration is a big part of that, and looking at disturbed urban soils, how can we enhance vegetation, especially under environmentally stressful conditions. To get into some of the details of Task 2 and the importance of product development and demonstrations, I want to talk a little bit about recipe development. And this focused around the DC Water Bloom product and making 5 to 6 different blended products with other locally available residuals and coming up with that most promising recipe. I think we narrowed it down to 2. But we looked at it agronomically and environmentally. We made sure that we were developing this promising, let's see here, developing these promising products for use in urban and suburban markets, but also making sure that they were stable, that we had sufficient amount of organic matter, which is usually what customers are looking for, and then making sure we had appropriate levels of nitrogen and phosphorus. Those recipes were then further developed and greenhouse studies were conducted. The next step, which we haven't started yet, we're just about to step, has to do with demonstration. And this is where we plan to establish 5 or 6 field research sites. Those research sites, we're going to look at the effect on the soil, water, and the vegetation. The sites will include vegetable gardens. It may include an urban vegetable garden run by urban gardeners. It may involve turf grass, a number of different sites where we can demonstrate how well these blended products work. The key, though, here is that the demonstrations will serve as outreach vehicles. This is where we get to tell potential customers, tell soil conservation folks, tell USDA folks, tell others in our own community how well these products and product blends worked on actual sites. Some interesting findings from Task 2 was that blended products were very good and comparable to other potting mediums for germinating plants and also for growing. But one of the things that was discovered is when we take these blended products as the entire root zone media, they were not successful in germinating the seeds. The other thing that we've discovered in our beginning part studies of Task 2 was in estimating the plant available nitrogen from these blends, the actual greenhouse study showed that that measurement was accurate. Jumping right into Task 3 research approach, this is probably the one that's least understood and known by most municipal folks, and I'm not saying that to be negative, I'm just saying that that's not part of what we typically do every day. So we recognized that we did need to look at the whole idea of marketing and how we can introduce that into the municipal market. So what we're thinking about is how do we identify and assess markets for these high-quality biosolids based on case studies of successful programs. And I can mention a couple of successful programs. Again, Tacoma is a successful program with their Tegro. Loop is another Class B branding and marketing program. We also have Milorganite. We have Ocean Grow. I'm sure there are a host of others that folks could mention. But what is it about these successful programs? How can we capture that information and pass it on to others? And then taking this guidance that we create and testing it in the DC regional area using the Bloom product. Again, the key, we want to deliver on marketing. So how do we do that? How do we develop a strategy for developing a successful marketing program? Well, as I mentioned, we're going to build on the success of other programs. We're going to interview the developers of those programs, the generators, and we're also going to look at their customers and what their customer thinks. We're going to think about marketing concepts now, and the key really is to test this tool to make sure that it has use for WE and RF subscribers. So what does make a successful program? Again, relying on the success of others, surveying others that have had success, and determining how they acquired how they acquired their customers and what their customer preferences were. The next step that we're just now getting into is surveying these customers and making sure that we know and identify their preferences, what it is they like, what they don't like. Is it odor? Is it consistency? Is it color? What is it that these customers demand? And again, using this template that we'll develop and make available and seeing if it works in the Washington, D.C. metro area. Interesting findings from Task 3. What are the most effective marketing tools? I was a little surprised. We know and understand that branding is important, but I'm not sure we understood how important it was. The other part of that is word of mouth. I'm sure that soil blenders talk to each other, that fertilizer blenders talk to each other, potential customers talk to each other. That was another one of the most effective marketing tools that was identified. Some of the least effective marketing tools, and anybody who's going out on cold calls can probably identify with this, that cold calls were very difficult, and we found that they were not very effective. And also, up to this point, internet advertisements have not been effective. Hopefully Bill can talk to that when he talks about Task 4. We also discovered that marketing tools such as demonstrations were absolutely critical. And those demonstrations could be as simple as engaging the local USDA folks or soil conservation folks or even a local university, having them engage with the research, help provide that aspect to the research that makes it more believable by some of our customers and the public. So again, demonstrations are very important. Task research or for research approach, and this is, again, I'm going to turn the show over to Bill here in a minute, but this is where we're thinking about creating this community of partners in high quality biosolids from our own industry, from our own biosolids community, but also looking at customers and interested parties. How do we use social media to engage those folks and the broader community? And with that, thanks for your attention. I do want to turn things over now to Bill Toffee so he can give us a little bit more detail about Task 4. Bill?
Okay, now I've got it working. Thank you, everyone. Hello, friends. I love podcasts, and you'll see that podcasts are not one of the tools I'm describing today. This past week, I listened to 2 interviews on one of my favorite podcasts. It's Krista Tippett's On Being. Father Jim Martin is a Jesuit priest. He was describing how he was chided by his colleagues for his what they thought was his excessive use of Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. But he explained that if he was going to be in communication with people, he needed to use the tools that people are using today to communicate, and those are the social media tools. So while we in our comfortable pattern of life in wastewater treatment are very familiar with putting out reports and brochures and documents, these are not the same tools as will advance public understanding of our commitment to resource recovery. Then there was a podcast that I had no reason to believe would have anything to do with our presentation today. It was with Alice Parker. For those few of you who may be on the phone who are, like myself, choral singers, you would recognize Alice Parker as a famous choral conductor of the Robert Shaw Chorale, as a composer and arranger. Her birthday is tomorrow. She's 91 years old. I didn't even know she was still alive. But Alice Parker at one moment was explaining how music activates the intuitive brain, whereas mostly we live in the rational part of our brain. But to be whole as people, we need to activate both parts of the brain, and that works also in the community. But then she went on to reference one of her favorite authors, who is Wendell Berry. You may not know Wendell Berry, but if you do, you know him to be an environmentalist and an author of environmentally oriented stories. And she referenced him because she was saying that his message is that for people to be whole and for communities to be whole, they need to find ways of reducing waste, of being responsible for recovering resources from that which they use, and being protectors of the environment. And I go, wow, that's exactly the message that we are trying to accomplish here in WEF's commitment to resource recovery, to us in our biosolids practice with high-quality biosolids. We want our communities to be whole. We want people to feel a connection to what we do, because it helps them to accomplish something important in their lives, which is a sense of integrity and wholeness. Wow, what's sort of an introduction to social media. But the reason I'm going into this is that we are talking about storytelling as part of how we describe our research and the importance of the research, not only to our wastewater agencies and to our current practitioners, but also to a larger community. We need to tell positive stories that help spread the word for why biosolids is a resource worthy of recovery. We need to support those agencies that are already out there, out in front, having named the products they're making with a brand name and are working to distribute these products in their community. We need to, let me see if I can get rid of this again. We need to give them tools, provide them access to to what has worked in other communities. But we want to go beyond that. We have a concern that with our Part 503 regulations now 23 years old, with 3/4 of our wastewater agencies still working with processes that meet the Class B level of pathogen reduction, that we have not really embraced as a environmental steward the commitment to advancing the level of processing that we're able to do, and that our standards of product quality have been stuck for over 2 decades, and that what we are engaged in is a is an effort to raise those standards. If I could just for a second remind you that if you go to the White House document, the so-called the Pathogen and Vector Attraction Practice Manual that was released just after Part 503 was promulgated, that on page 64, and I'm saying this just so that you can go see it for yourself, this was what was said, end quote. The responsibility to eventually develop additional vector attraction reduction test protocols lies with the scientific community and the sewage sludge industry, end quote. So over 2 decades ago, we were being told that it is our responsibility and duty and expectation that we would be developing additional test protocols in order to improve the tools by which we judged vector attraction reduction and stability. And I can let you in on another little secret. We are not going to complete that task with this research project. So one of our goals in our building a community around understanding our research is in developing and building support for the next steps of biosolids research. S&M, I should say, social media, what makes it work? It is all about developing connections among people. One concern I have is that most of us work within the confines of an office without much contact with others in our field who are also working and struggling at times to try to make a great biosolids product. We are also not good at telling the story of what we do. Sometimes it's because of bureaucratic constraints within our own agencies. Sometimes it's just our natural inclination to keep quiet. But to make social media work, we need to tell interesting stories that attract interest. And we need to tailor those stories to the needs of the viewers in our social media outreach. We need to tell it with words and with video. They need to be short. They need to create human interest or connect with people and what they are up to in their work. And sometimes you have to be pretty corny. And we know that there are tools that are in use today that help set us on a successful course. And I would like to give a shout out. I hope that Kate Kurtz is on the phone today from Seattle. And I don't know if the folks from Northwest Biosolids Management Association is on the call, but between the two of them, their report on what works in social media is some of the best that we have seen in our field, and we need to learn from the messages that they give us. The Water Environment Research Foundation has been supporting the development of tools for helping us with our communications with the public. Water Environment Federation is interviewing, as we speak, individuals who may be qualified to take on a national biosolids communication mission for WEF. We can look forward to a person who's going to help coordinate a national messaging. But we could also look outside of our own stovepipes. The so-called bioproducts economy is still being created. The manure production in this country is 10 times that of biosolids. We have immense quantities of waste from the forest products industry. These are all sources of organic residuals that together, we with them, are part of an emerging bioproducts economy, which will, in communicating the goals of building soils, of contributing to stormwater management, are messages that we can join with. But for the time being, we have a pretty sorry state of it. The other day, it's hard to see the screen, I apologize for that, but I did a Google search of biosolids products with brand names to see what came up in my Google search. And still, after all these decades of work on public communications, the #1 destination is an anti-biosolids activist group. So Sludge News has the branded products containing sewage sludge, and they are not publishing this list because they're in support of biosolids products, but rather to alert customers of the evil products that contain sewage sludge. Now, thankfully, Loop has now risen to #2 on this list. So those who are actually interested in recycling biosolids can see some engaging information by going to the second on this list. But it is one of our hoped for outcomes of our research that as we create material about high quality biosolids and biosolids brands, that we will be hosting a site that will be #1 in #2. Okay, just a joke. So to start off with, we have a website, High Quality Biosolids. It's already available for you to take a look at. And but we haven't really been promoting it too much yet, and the reason for that is that we have not yet a set of information on results from the research that we're able to disseminate. So this is still mostly just a beginning point. You'll see 3 boxes along the bottom there. These represent the main portions of the website. It includes description of the research, a page for other resources describing biosolids resource recovery, and then a good news site, which we call the resource circle. This is the kind of information, this is the way the second page looks like. It's clearly intended to be a place where the research project itself under WE and RF has its details, the scope of work, the summary reports, and then the final report will be available here. And we will be posting some of the presentations that are available that describe the results of components of the research work. This is a page from the resource section. What are some of the other places where you can find information about biosolids? And the page on positive information about biosolids resource recovery with various current topics, news articles, presentations, stories, video clips. These will be available on the resource circle. What we don't have yet a link to is something that's under development. It's possible and very easy with the tools that are on the internet to create a map that you can search around for sources of biosolids products around the country. I just entered in a few of the agencies that are familiar to us all and part of our partnership. But as we go forward, we should have some of the 52 agencies that are on our list of biosolids branded biosolids products producers, where an individual within the industry or outside the industry can go here and find contact information for where they can procure branded biosolids products. Moving on beyond our website to some of the other main social media avenues, Facebook comes up as one of the #1 destinations. Facebook has what it calls company pages. These are essentially the home pages of websites. They provide the same kind of function. They are places where people can learn the basics of an organization and what it's up to. And this is the Facebook company page for the High Quality Biosolids Research Project. It's not a place for interaction, it's a place for one-way flow of information from what we're doing out to people who are interested in it. And this is it's a little different than what I saw the other day, but WRF has a Facebook company page, and this is where we could have learned about the news that they had combined with the Water Reuse Foundation. It's a place for announcements. But we also have a Facebook closed group. This is a place for for people to join who have affinity with the topic. And for the 64 of you who are on the call today, I invite each and every one of you to make a request to become part of the High Quality Biosolids group. This will be a place where we can share information and we can network among ourselves. This is a place for community. It's a place where you will learn who are the other people in the community by linking to their profiles, and you can directly communicate with them. A closed group is also a place where you can announce developments in your company or projects in your agency, and by so doing, get the word out about the great stuff you're doing. And I hope it's a place where we will have an active posting of photographs and videos which give liveliness to our messages. One of my complaints, it's one I direct at myself, is that we are not oriented toward visual information, and that is a necessary component of social media, and it's one that has been missing in many of our communications with the public. The other main social media tool is LinkedIn. LinkedIn. Now, where I may have 300 friends on Facebook, it tends to be a more personal site. LinkedIn is intended to be a professional networking social media tool. But still, you start with a personal homepage. And the personal homepage is populated with information that you post in your personal profile. It is essentially a very elaborate resume. You can provide information about your education, business experience, your employment history. The profile is often the place that recruiters go to try to match open positions in the job world to people who are likely candidates. But more than that, it's a place where we can drill down and find the right person to help us with our particular questions. LinkedIn, just like Facebook, has groups. And as a LinkedIn participant, you can join a group. And there are hundreds and hundreds of groups. And you don't not only need to join groups, you can host groups. You can create groups. These are the two groups that I manage because of my affiliation with the Mid-Atlantic Biosolids Association and because of the High Quality Biosolids Project. You can join WEF's group, and there are literally thousands of WEF members have joined in on WEF's LinkedIn group. And similarly, WE&RF has a group. One of the interesting features of these groups is that LinkedIn will recommend that you connect with people who are in the group that they judge from their algorithms may be appropriate for you to link to in LinkedIn. So it's a way to build your network of colleagues. But importantly, the groups are intended to be places where people can share information, and it's moderated by the leader to make sure that the conversations are appropriate. Here's an example of how within the LinkedIn High Quality Biosolids group, I was able to post the announcement for today's webinar. And there's opportunities to set up within LinkedIn events. And by setting up a webinar event in LinkedIn, you can, it's another avenue for getting the word out. And these can also be sponsored, so you can push these out into the larger social media by paying as essentially an advertising fee. LinkedIn has also taken on additional functionality for being a platform for providing training to groups and to companies. They have now a share file dimension, and the share file is a place where you can upload presentations that you have given to your industry or to a seminar, and you can upload those and post them to your LinkedIn group, and where it can be then viewed on LinkedIn, archived and viewed on LinkedIn. And here's an example of one company that has set up a whole network of these. What I see as a possibility is that as we develop training programs for, say, the use of Biosolids product, we can post those slideshows up on the internet and provide ongoingly accessible tools for users of Biosolids products. I have not been a big user of Twitter until Donald Trump. By golly, he has shown us the power of Twitter. So just the other day, I set up a Twitter account for HQ Biosolids. I am now able to immediately communicate with all the folks that are following me on Twitter important information about high-quality biosolids. But since I just set this up, nobody's following me, so my Twitters are totally irrelevant. However, the goal would be for each and every one of you who are on the phone today, all 64 of you, to do a search for HQ Biosolids or high-quality biosolids and follow me, and that will give me an opportunity to follow you. And so in the future, when there is interesting information about Biosolids brands from across the country, we can immediately share that information through our Twitter. One of the features of Twitter is that it allows you to link to media stories, to websites, that when you have linked there, they can immediately from their cell phone or from the benefit of their desktop computer, go to those websites and get some positive information that they can then use. However, YouTube, I think, is going to be one of the sites that I will promise myself to use more deliberately in the future. I believe that the future of social media is going to be with our video stories, not just for us, but for the entire social media platforms that we are seeing. Facebook go live video, we're seeing Instagram go live video. I think in the future we will see virtually every news story that we are interested in being told in the form of a video. I have set up a high-quality biosolids channel. The way these channels work is that we can create a set of I guess they call them sub-channels, I'm not exactly sure, but various topic areas. And you can go in there and see the best of the best videos on biosolids products, biosolids recycling, biosolids technology. It'll be a place where companies will illustrate their the functionality of their equipment, and where agencies with biosolids products can make their sales pitch. But more than that, it's a place where you can provide folks with interesting training in lieu of conferences, or even in addition to conferences. It'd be an opportunity for us to make additional value from the work we put into our seminars and our symposia by posting the presentations on a YouTube channel. So let's take a quick look at what makes for a good program in social media. Let's look first at web pages. Having visited virtually every one of the 50 branded biosolids products that are out there in the internet, I can tell you that there's a huge variety of websites with varying success. What you need to know first is that you need to have a website that tells people things that they are interested in and things they want to know. And here's an example of the new website just launched by Northwest Biosolids Management Association. This is taking them a couple of years to get to this point. It takes a lot of thought and a lot of planning. This is one of the first things you come to on their website now. It's an interesting, did you know? Did you know how much biosolids produce? Did you know how biosolids can help grow plants? So that is one of the main features that distinguishes social media from a static website. Virginia Biosolids Council, that's the VBC up there on the title there. Virginia Biosolids Council, very mindful of the importance of putting first on your website the stories of people using biosolids, because that is what will cause people to stop and pay attention. They have a series of about 6 stories of users of biosolids and what is the value that they got from receiving biosolids for recycling. These are not videos, they are one-page media story, written stories. So let's look at a couple of the well-known biosolids branded products out there and take a look at the way their websites are used or how they've set them up. This is an example. It's useful, I suppose, to know the hours of operation and the location, but you have to look at that and say, how much time am I going to spend on this website? It doesn't really tell me what are the benefits of Tegro. Another product, SoundGrow. We are in an industry where this is what we seem to want to look for. We want to see the library of documents that we think are important for us to tell people about, without too much thought to how this looks to the consuming public. And you'll notice about 2/3 of the way down, the question is, does SoundGrow contain heavy metals? It's something that we think it's important for us to tell people, but we have to ask ourselves, is that really necessary on the front page of a website whose intention is to promote SoundGrow? And in a similar fashion, on the East Coast, OceanGrow is one of the best products we have of the Ocean County Utility Authority. And if Peter Cushion's on the phone, thanks, Peter, for your ongoing work on this. But still, your website tends to be focused on how to explain the product, like what odors are a problem with the product. So we tend to look at the information in terms of what we think we need to say in order to be responsible engineers in managing our program. And similarly in Metro Vancouver, Nutriflor, the first thing you see on their website is an explanation of how you make it, rather than what it does for customers. We love fact sheets. Fact sheets are dense. And many of the websites, they just don't go anywhere, either with the good intentions that we have an attractive website that's going to show product being mixed and produced. Sometimes it's websites where, this gets me, when they spell biosolid, the hyphen and a capital S. I don't know where that came from, but when you are developing a website, you want your homepage to at least spell things correctly, or not disappoint people when the website's not available. But this is what we are looking for. And we are looking for telling the story of how the product works for people. And it's an appealing image. So with a phrase that people can remember. And to the extent that we can have other people tell our story for us, we have a winner. We need to find credible spokespeople who are willing to explain how the biosolids works for them, and better yet, people who are who show themselves as being interested and engaged in the topic, and that helps create a positive image that lasts beyond the text of the message. So our partner in this high-quality biosolids research project is DC Water. They have an immediate interest in the tools of promoting a new branded product. You'll notice some similarities with Loop. I think they hired the same consulting firm, I believe. They use the infinity circle in the middle like Loop does. Bloom has that sort of the connection that is suggested by the infinity symbol. And it has a name which does not connote biosolids. It connotes the results of biosolids use. And it asks the question, what's so good about Bloom? And importantly, they also use the YouTube videos to describe the product and its benefits to the community. I'm going to take a few moments and play these short clips. These clips, it shows you the kind of messaging that is been designed to be successful in the social media environment, and I think it's also inspiring. Oh, we're just going to, I guess we don't have the audio that's connected to the same, but what we'll do, these are folks who are in the community who are using the biosolids and the Bloom product in demonstrations. And they're describing, here's Greg Avanilo, the researcher, describing the value of biosolids products and Bloom specifically in creating green spaces in the city and supporting fresh urban gardens and supporting stormwater management. The DC Water has one of its clips, a video that is talks to a mayor of a community in which the garden that has been created with Bloom is in a food desert, and they're teaching children how to not only garden in their community, but also how to prepare fresh food for their healthfulness. They're making a connection between the community, its health of its citizens, and the availability of this product to support urban gardens. I don't know if this is going to work, and I don't know whether our administrator is going to be able to bring any audio in here. But this is that presentation in which the children are describing how they are using the produce from the garden to make vegetables and food in their community.
Those attendees that can't hear the audio, we can't hear the audio of it, but we did post links to these videos that Bill's discussing on our website.
So I tell you, my sadness around that is this last one, which is the last slide in my presentation, where this is Kate Kurtz from Seattle, and with her youngster. This baby was born about the same time that we started our high-quality biosolids research project. And what I want you to see is when she says it's like magic, you can see the joy in her eyes as she's talking about how things grow, which like harkens back to the child that's in her arms. Watch this. Oh, that looks so good. I can't wait to be out there. It's like magic. Kate's saying. Right, Kate? Okay, thank you, folks. So what we're trying to create is magic. We're trying to create community. We're trying to create wholeness. We're trying to encourage people to see that the recycling of biosolids and the branding of biosolids products is their opportunity to see in their community the recovery of nutrients and organic matter from the wastewater solids, and that it's creating a product that, when they're put to use in their community, helps them fulfill on the sustainability objectives that they have in their community for the benefit of themselves and their neighbors. So that is the kind of story we need to tell with our social media, and we need to tell it in a way that also convinces our own wastewater agencies that committing to a level of treatment and processing that allows them to produce products that can be sold in the marketplace in a template of marketing that has been deployed successfully in other communities is one that will encourage them to take the next step in producing high-quality biosolids. Over to you, Christine.
All right. Well, thank you, Bill. Thank you so much, and thank you, Trudy, for your presentations. As I was mentioning, those videos are amazing videos. So if you go to WRF.org/biosolids, I believe that the links to the videos are embedded in one of the sections down there, so you can actually get to those. But just a reminder, you can send in questions anytime. While we're waiting for some questions to come in, I want to remind you all that we would love for you to get involved in this research, and the best way that you can get involved is by liking the Facebook page. There's a link there for the Facebook page. Joining the Biosolids LinkedIn group, follow HQ Biosolids on Twitter, and of course, visit the website highqualitybiosolids.com. Also, you can, like I mentioned before, you can go to WRF.org/biosolids, and you'll see, as Trudy had mentioned before, all the different biosolids-related projects. But also, if you're a WRF subscriber, you can log on and you could see the project reports that are happening with this particular project. I do want to point out that we just last month published a fact sheet on the first progress, the end of the year progress report that's available for download, and it summarizes the findings to date and what's going to happen in the next year of the project. Also, I want to mention we were talking about. Oops, I ended it. Sorry. I wanted to mention that we have a series of these webinars that are based on this project alone. The next one is February 1st. It's going to talk more about Task 1 on vector attraction characterization and those findings to date. And then the next one will be April 26, 2017 on high-quality biosolids marketing. And I believe Kate Kurtz will be one of the speakers for that, and we're doing that jointly with WEF. So let me go back here so you know how to send in questions. And we do have some questions here. This one is from Kate. What internet advertising did you evaluate, and what was the goal of their advertising? I believe that's for Bill or Trudy.
This is Bill. I have not investigated any advertising, and if you would like to give me some pointers, I'd love to hear it. I have done my own little advertising for my course, and I know that you can suck up money really, really fast if you don't do it smartly. So if there's some folks out there that have pushed out their postings, their events, their websites with paid advertising on Facebook, I would love to hear their experience with that.
Yeah, so if you have any comments, please send them on. You can send them to me or directly to Bill, and that'd be great to share that information. Okay, the next question that we have is from David Heel. First of all, he says, terrific work. Yay, us. Why is there a focus on a local brand with local marketing? Isn't this limiting?
I guess I can jump in and try to answer that question. I would say that we're not restricting ourselves to local, but we felt that local was more important to get started than perhaps out to a broader group of people. One thing we do know is that if Biosolids products move more than 50 miles, it creates transportation questions. So thinking about our own urban and suburban soils and how poor they are was more important focus of this research than looking at some of these broader markets. And maybe that's a good comment for perhaps the next step of research that we look at, looking at some of these more broad markets. But I can tell you, in looking at these markets, typically it's difficult to go more than 50 miles. So, so that's why we sort of focused on local first, maybe regional second.
This is Bill. I think those of us in the wastewater field don't actually think of biosolids yet as a product. We don't even contemplate naming it when we use it even as a Class B biosolids with our farmers. There's been a reluctance to do so, I think, because it seems kind of maybe even a little sleazy, like trying to create something good that we know is just a waste product. I mean, that may be the conversation in the back of our heads. So I think it's part of trying to create a different relationship with what we do ourselves, that if we adopted that premise, that this is a great endeavor worthy of celebration in our community, I think we would then help cause agencies to commit to a higher level of processing, a higher level of promotion of their recycling program. It's a chicken and egg kind of question too.
Right. Well, I think there's also a hurdle there. There's another question from Matthew, which is kind of my question too. So, we want to get this out to the major public and everything, and to a broader audience, but how do we address the attacks by publics that don't believe that biosolids are useful or safe, especially with social media pages where people are spreading lies or opinions more than facts? How do we overcome that hurdle? What are your opinions, Bill and Trudy?
I think I can take the first crack at that, and I know Bill will have very useful thoughts to follow on what I have to say. I think the focus here is that if we produce high-quality products, we make actual products, that we're proud of those products, that they're stable, that they can be stored, that they don't, that we don't get complaints when people use them. If we can incorporate them into other products that are used, we will reduce the impact from neighbor or community complaints. And I'm sure Bill has something to add to that, but we have to take that first step. We have to take that first step. How many times in our own communities do we see a biosolids generator who maybe doesn't make the best product and it's going out somewhere where it probably shouldn't go? I have loads of examples. That just stirs up the public and gives them something to talk about. Again, I think the first step is we need to look internally, look at our biosolids, look at the quality, set ourselves up so that we can more easily defend our biosolids programs. And Bill, go ahead and jump in.
Last week I attended the first annual Urban Soil Symposium in New York City. New York City is an agency that is still looking for a solution for the future and needs to make some fundamental decisions. But the community in New York City who is eager to embrace biosolids as an ingredient in the restoration of their environment and in creating soils for stormwater management and rebuilding wetlands is enormous. And there was a lot of positive vibe in that community. So what we need to do is We need to just tell our stories of what can be done, what has been done, and that itself will be the answer to the negative websites. We will have the stories out there that overcome the negative ones. But we need to have messages that target the people who are our allies and who are our sympathetic ears, because we have a great story to tell, and we just need to be telling it. And we haven't been doing that. And that's why others have risen to the top of the Google search list.
Right. Just to add on to that, too, we talked about product demonstrations. That's another important key, and I know in projects we've been involved in, when we suggest a product demonstration, it's very rare that folks take us up on that, but I do think that that's another way that we can touch base with the community.
Yeah, I'm glad you bring that up, Trudy, because one of the major tasks here is that the community gardens, right? We're using some of the biosolids to build community gardens in the urban areas. And it is important because now we're starting in that grassroots level, and that could help with our story.
Exactly. And that's a part of our task 2, phase 2 effort is in the demonstrations. And part of that, it does include some urban community gardens, which again, the more folks that use the product, the more folks that see how the product works, that's just another group of people that will defend and support these programs.
And I do think a lot of, even the findings that are coming out of Task 1 are going to help defend, well, the use of biosolids. Trudy, do you mind talking a little more about the housefly task that's going to be happening? Because I know why that's so important in the research.
Yes. What we're trying to do is take bits of information and try to correlate all these things, our odors and volatile solids and methionine content and attractiveness to flies. How are these all connected? Can we make that connection? And what better vector to use than a fly? And Bill was able to identify a researcher at the University of Kansas who actually has a colony of houseflies. And he uses the houseflies to look at mainly animal manures. He has done some biosolids work in the past. But what we do is we take the biosolid samples as received, and we allow the flies to access that biosolid. So one of the criteria they use is how often are the flies attracted and land on the biosolids. And then there's a second component where they actually look at how often do the flies lay eggs and then pupate. So we haven't really gotten a lot of information back on that particular piece of the research yet, but I find it very interesting, and I'll be very interested to find if that is connected to our human odor assessment.
Mm. Will our webinar in February have a little more information on that part of the research?
Yes, in fact, we talked yesterday about the topics that we would cover in that February webinar, and Ludwig Zurich from Kansas State will be one of the speakers, and he's very eager and is looking forward to making a presentation about his colony of houseflies.
Great, great. So audience, keep on lookout for those webinars coming in early 2017, so you can keep up to date on the research, the exciting research that we're getting out of this project. I have another question here. I think Bill or Trudy, I don't know which one exactly would have this information, but I do feel like this is related to Task 3. What have you found makes branding so effective?
I'm going to, again, take the first crack at this and then let Bill jump in, because I'm not really the marketing person. That's Lisa Budman is leading that effort on Task 3. So I'm not sure I'll be able to answer this question very well. But, you know, it's funny when when we work with clients who have branded products, people remember the name of that product. I guess it's sort of like the Kleenex thing. They're really facial tissues, but because it's been branded so well, we know it as Kleenex. We just call them Kleenex. So I think in our society, our advertising masters have already, for decades, been aware of the fact that branding is so important. Why can't branding also deliver that same result to the biosolids community? And I guess, not being a marketing person, I'm going to turn this over to Bill, and maybe he can explain it a little bit better than I did.
I agree with your assessment there. But I'd like to think too that agencies that have gone through the trouble of creating a brand name are simultaneously, maybe subconsciously, perhaps, creating their standards for that which they need to meet in order to live up to the promises they make when they are distributing that branded product. Whether it's in the service they're giving in distributing a liquid digested biosolids, or it's in the quality of the compost that they're delivering, that sets an expectation in the minds of the customer as well as in the minds of the producer. And I think it allows us to be a little bit more responsible for what we are delivering.
Okay, thank you. Just one point that's not really a question, but for the speakers. But yes, we are recording this webinar. It will be available afterwards, and we'll have a link to the PDF of the PowerPoints for you all, because I want to make sure you have these websites so you could join the social media platforms and be part of our study. That's one of the things we're going to be looking at is how effective was social media getting the word out on high quality biosolids. One other thing to point out is that we do not give out continuing education certificates, but if you need proof that you attended this webinar, just email me and we'll send like an email or something saying that you did participate, and then you could get your CEs that way. I have a couple more questions. I think we're very close to the end of time here. So from Kendall Christensen, there is an American Biogas Council that's developing a guidance system for high quality digestate. We're not interacting with them. But hey, if they are interested in what our findings are going to be, actually I'd be interested to know what their timeline is on their guidance document. And then maybe, Kendall, you can send me an email with more information on that. That would be great. And maybe down the road, we can expand this project to include biogas and other biosolids related resources.
And Kendall, I think that's a great idea, and I would appreciate it if you would send that to Christine, and then Christine, please share that with our team. That sounds like very useful work that's going on, and we could certainly learn from each other.
Absolutely. And I also know in California, I believe they're going to be doing a study on using biosolids to replace fire-damaged lands. And, with everything that happened in Tennessee recently, unfortunately, it's another use for biosolids. And Bill, you mentioned the wetlands in New York, so I don't think we're really getting into that in this study, but if we can make these coordinated efforts with other organizations that are looking at the uses of biosolids, it just makes it even better, gets our story out there more. Okay, okay, so I'm looking at this timer, and it says that the duration has already been 90 minutes, but my clock says 5 more minutes left. And this is not really a question, but probably more of a comment. This is from Vincent. We, as a society, are obsessed with celebrities. He thinks that this is a great start on the theme of marketing through social media, but we need champions. We need champions in our society to increase visibility. And, like when he says, when Kanye meets Trump and the news drops, what are they doing to show this is breaking news? So do we have any celebrities you think would be that we could tap into?
Wow, that would be a great idea to have celebrities associated with what we do. Typically, we find celebrities are on the other side of the fence, unfortunately. Unfortunately, other groups. I don't know if you can weigh in on that, Bill.
Well, the first one that comes to mind is the fellow who had the Dirty Jobs show. I'm having a blank on his name.
Mike Rowe.
Oh yes, he would be my choice for the celebrity to push out the recovery of resource value from biosolids.
You know, I'd like to just add to that. I know, once again, when we go out to talk to clients and we talk about branding and we talk about demonstrations, and Bill's heard me say this before, we spend millions of dollars on design and construction, but nobody wants to take that next step where we actually would have enough funding to hire someone like Mike Rowe to be a spokesperson for us. And that is a very difficult hurdle to overcome, because maybe as practitioners or maybe as consultants or whatever our role is, we're not carrying that message that if you want biosolids to go out in the community and you want it to be publicly accepted, somebody somewhere might have to spend some money thinking about marketing, thinking about branding, thinking about community relations, thinking about how do we get local experts to support our case. Let's start thinking more about this and committing more funds to this kind of work.
Absolutely. And Ned Beecher just brought up Matt Damon. Matt Damon has been an advocate for water.
Oh, yes.
With the movie Martian, you know, did you guys see that movie? That was an amazing movie. It was a great book, too, by the way. But the fact that he uses his own biosolids to grow food, you know, that was like my favorite part of the whole story. And if we can find a way to connect with Matt Damon, actually, Vincent Appa, who brought this comment up, says that his brother is a dentist for celebrities in New York. So, Vincent, hey, spread the word, get them on our social media feed, okay? Okay, well, I think we're running out of time. So I want to thank Trudy and Bill. Thank you so much for your time to give this presentation. And thank you, everybody that took the time today to participate and listen into this webinar. If you have any questions, feel free to send me an email. My email is cradke@werf.org. And I hope to see you guys in February for our next segment of the High Quality Biosolids webinars. Okay, well, thank you guys again. Have a good afternoon and happy holidays.